Friday, and then when it got occupied, we moved over outside Grant Robertson's office to say we need a livable future, give us a budget for a livable future, because we couldn't see it happening, and we didn't. So to me, this petition is crucial. You know, if government is not told that they must tell people what they're doing, there's no pressure on them. It all goes through committees, you know, or it's a letter that gets somehow lost, you know, amongst all the other things that come in. You know, they need to treat the climate like an emergency, like they said they would. Actually, do you know, they never declared a COVID emergency. But which emergency did we have? Which one did we have where government actually took action decisively, quickly, like you have to if there's a war going on? You have to move fast. And we know the scientists have been telling us for decades that things are getting more and more and more serious. I talk to people who care and they go, oh, you're talking about 10 years? Well, I'm not so sure we'll be here in 10 years' time. And no, I don't think I'll have children because, you know, I'm not so sure what's going to be around for my children. You know, this is kind of scary. I mean, I thought that when I was 15 or 16 because I was worried about nuclear war. And then nuclear war didn't happen, and that was all very good. But actually, nuclear war was much more avoidable than the climate crisis. You know, the people who say, oh, well, that didn't happen, you know, so this won't happen. It's not the same thing. It's not escalating damage. It's not forest fires to Australia that killed 1 billion animals. It's not rivers drying up in Europe that were huge and have been there for centuries and centuries and centuries. And all the other things that have been happening that are very clear indicators that this is a crisis that's happening now. And I came across an expression recently which is willful ignorance. And it's a good one. And I think we need to keep going. Hey, willful ignorance, you know what willful ignorance is? Well, it's when you will not to know. So you have to will it. To will it, you have to know, of course, but then you go, no, I don't know about that. Because on top of the people who are depressed and suicidal and stressed out to the max by, you know, and on top of the people who are going, no. There's a lot of people going, I just can't think about it. I've got too much to do. I've got my job and it's stressful, and look at the supermarket prices and look at the housing prices, and all these are real. All these are definitely the result of the same kind of willful ignorance in government. So this petition that's being put forward, it's a petition to strip away the mask that isn't over the face, it's over the eyes, it's over the brain. So that's what I wanted to say. I'd also like to recognise that this here where we are, the Mana Whenua, is lands of Te Aotearoa, Taranaki, Te Puka o Te Ika, and to honour them with our sincere commitment to keep the world safe and healthy, to make that happen for all of our descendants, and beyond that for all of our relations, the animals, the trees. We're not that different genetically. So, to conclude, many thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Kaz. What's going to happen now is I'm going to read the petition, hand it to Eugenie, and give you a chance to respond. Kia tatou, ngā mihi o te atua. Greetings to you all. Thank you, Eugenie Sage, for being here to receive this petition that asks for fortnightly media conferences from the government to provide more accountability, transparency and regular updates on the ongoing process to combat climate change. The creator of this petition, Bernard Schofield, is an 84-year-old grandfather of 6 who, like all of us who signed it, is scared for the future of his children and grandchildren and angry at the lack of meaningful action on the climate crisis by governments around the world, including ours. Millions of people around the world are classed as climate refugees by the United Nations. These are people like you and me. Next year there will be millions more. The catastrophe will continue to get bigger indefinitely and embrace us all unless governments act. We see the impacts in Aotearoa: flooding, droughts, 1 in 100-year weather events happening with increased frequency, sea inundation of communities, depletion of our seaweed forests on which fish stocks rely. Governments around the world are aware of the consequences of global warming, but they're not taking truly effective action. Urgent action is needed now. We need to hold the government to account, not just at election time, but ongoingly, specifically for its actions and policy regarding greenhouse gas emissions. The COVID press conferences provide us with a model. Then the government kept us informed on a daily basis and was subject to questions from reporters. We need a similar model now for what is an even greater crisis. Yes, this petition asks for fortnightly press conferences funded by relevant ministers on the climate crisis. They should ensure A, keep the public informed about government policies and actions, B, give reporters a chance to ask questions, and C, encourage meaningful discussion as to how a change in mindset is key to creating alternative ways of living within the boundaries of Pt.2 so we can all contribute. Many people shrug their shoulders and say, Aotearoa is too small a country to make a difference. Small countries make up 30% of global gas emissions. We could be showing those countries it's possible to make a difference. In the words of Phoebe Wright, a young climate activist, every day counts now for the survival of our ecosystems, for mitigating the deadly destruction we're helping to inflict on vulnerable populations, and making a livable future here in Aotearoa. Thank you, Eugenie Sage, for being here. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
E mihi ana ranganui rawa ko Pt.2 tēnā koroa. E mihi ana e nā mana whenua te Aotearoa e taranaki whānui. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Can I first acknowledge Bernard Schofield? As Jesse Mulligan said, you're never too old to be an activist, and just his work in putting this petition together and encouraging people to sign is a highlight of the ongoing push for further action. Can I belatedly acknowledge parliamentary colleague Ricardo Menendez-March, another Green MP. So all of the mahi that Bernard has put into the petition to make Parliament and to make government more accountable is something I totally support. And just really recognise your comments, Anne, Carol, Chaz and Kit, in highlighting the increased anxiety and desperation that people feel about the scale of the crisis and the amount of action that is being taken.
I'm on the Environment Select Committee. We have recently finished the first examination of the emissions reduction plan. There are a number of submissions on that, and we've published quite a comprehensive report last week, which I do encourage you to read. It's on the parliamentary website. And that does highlight that even though action is too slow, we have made some significant change. As James Shaw, Minister for Climate Change, says, we've done more in the last 5 years than in the previous 30. Establishing the Climate Commission with its independent advice, getting the Zero Carbon Act as a multi-partisan framework through Parliament was significant because it does provide the basis for setting emissions budgets and for government agencies to lead the change in reducing emissions. There is a Climate Change Executives Board that has been established, and they need to be called to account too because they represent the public sector. So Bernard's idea, the petition's idea of having these regular briefings like the COVID press conferences is a very good, tangible way of having agencies report on what is being done and what isn't being done. One of the key themes that came through in the examination of the emissions reduction plan is the need for behaviour change. The point that you have made about willful blindness by some, people feeling overwhelmed, not knowing what they can do, whether it's action like growing more of your own vegetables, whether it's taking a bus, getting a scooter, those things in daily life. But government has got to make that easier. So that behaviour change often is led by community organisations. So that's something that the Green Party will continue to push, that government provide more support and assistance for the community organisations as well as changing the law. Teal made a really good point about how other aspects of the law don't reflect what is in the Zero Carbon Act. We've got the biggest reform of environmental law with the Natural Built Environments Bill coming before Parliament soon. The Greens will really push hard in that for much greater recognition of climate. We did get a requirement that emissions be taken into account in Council's decision on resource consents. The problem is the Labour government hasn't implemented that yet. So there is huge scope for change. We have an election next year, but the biggest threat to that is we get a government which will go backwards on the minimal progress we've made to date. So it is really encouraging you to continue your mahi, to continue to profile these issues. It is frustrating when the change isn't fast enough, but unless people stay active, we're not going to have the mandate for a continued change. And the one final thing is Aotearoa noa. So the Green Party made it very clear that we expected a much stronger move towards emissions pricing and reduction in emissions from the agricultural sector through government decisions on agricultural emissions. There has been huge opposition from the farming community. So do encourage conversations with individual farmers. Many of them are trying to reduce emissions. But the industry as a whole, those agribusiness interests that account for 50% of our emissions, need to drop their blind shades of willful blindness and need to commit to more rapid action. So that is where the fight is for us at the moment, because the final decisions have yet to really get implemented and get agreed, but the Green Party continues to push for much stronger action across the board, and particularly in that transport sector and also with agricultural emissions. So really acknowledge all of the mahi that everyone here is doing to profile the issue and to keep on keeping on. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora. And this will go to the Petitions Committee, and there'll be another opportunity should be for further information to be presented and it to be heard by the Parliamentary Committee. But kia ora. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you.
Could I just say with the small numbers,